Hey, all. So I got a message from Hecate this morning, and I think that some things have been building up towards this. And this is a message about like life stages and where you are in those life stages. It's very interesting. So I was getting a lot of messages all week long about like transitions, like transitioning between the stages. I've been doing a lot of readings where people are kind of asking me like, what's next? What's next? And I even had somebody in my comments talking about helping other people transition onto the next life, basically, and like spiritually transition. And that's something where it's just such a loud theme this week. So I asked Hecate about it this morning. I burned some incense and I was kind of like talking to her, and I was like, is the message for me? Is it for other people? Like what is coming up? What is coming through? And Hecate very clearly answered me. So I was talking to somebody about maiden, mother, crone, like the main life eras, and Hecate represents all three basically. So that's why I was talking to her about this. Also, since she's like the goddess of the crossroads, she also manages a lot of these like life transition type things. Okay. And the answer came back to me, Gabby, you think of these as being linear, like in sequence. It's maiden and then mother and then crone. And the message from Hecate, and she did tell me to share this, is that it isn't always like in sequence like that. And sometimes, just like when we say life is about balancing the masculine and feminine divine and learning to come to like a balance that works for you, it's the same thing with these different life stage energies. They're energies. They're not necessarily just like linear in time fixed stages where it's like clearly A and then B and then C. It's a matter of balancing these different energies at different points in your life. So I think what I'm trying to say is like being in the crone era is so powerful. Like that's my favorite, right? Because that's all about reclaiming your own personal power. That's all about returning to self-determination. You're coming out of being focused on others. Like in the mother era, the crone era is focused about like bigger picture things and destiny and making sure that your third stage is about finishing what you're here to do and focusing on yourself and your own journey and less about other people, when you're in your corner. Anyway, but what was really interesting is I was doing this reading for somebody, and what kept coming through is like youthfulness and like reclaiming some things from the maiden era. And so many people had, frankly, their childhoods ended early. Maybe you were a young mother. Maybe there was like trauma, or you had to take on adult roles too early in your childhood. You didn't fully experience that life stage. You moved too quickly into independence, and then whatever the mother era looked like for you. It doesn't necessarily mean you had kids. It really doesn't. But it does mean that you moved into just living and taking care of others one way or another. And so anyway, sorry, I don't mean to ramble about this, but I'm really trying to get across that you can have maiden energy in your crone era, and maybe you're supposed to, you know what I mean? Like if you missed out on that stage, maybe your crone era is about rediscovering some of that innocence and that play and that joy, not just the serious business of making sure I finish my spiritual journey correctly, you know what I mean? Which is, of course, I was a Virgo, that's how I think about it. But anyway, it was a really interesting message from Hecate, and other things can be true too. Like maybe in your mother era, you need to channel some crone. Maybe in your crone era, you didn't complete a mother stage. There's still mother energy there. But again, it's not about completing stages 100%. It's about what energy you're balancing in these different stages and not seeing them as being so black and white, frankly. Anyway, I thought that was a really interesting It was a really interesting message from Hecate to share. What's funny is when I get these channeled messages, they're the hardest ones for me to, actually verbalize. Like I'm a great speaker. I've been doing public speaking for decades and decades, you know what I mean? But the channeled messages, those tend to trip me up the most, because it's like you're getting this message from spirit and it has to go through your brain, and you have to like translate the concepts and then verbalize it like all at the same time. I don't know. It's a very different like brain process. It's actually really interesting. For those of you who also channel, I'm curious if that happens to you too. But yes, so I stumble over my words when channeling because it's too much happening at once. And sometimes these are like big concepts. Sometimes there's not even words for them, and finding the right words is hard. So just wanted to share that with you. Message from Hecate, life stages. The other thing that's been coming through, and this was coming up with a friend of mine who's a seer, is like this real clear theme about managing those life stage transitions well, and maybe supporting each other through life stage transitions. Like sometimes you need support to be like, you know what, my energy does need to shift a little bit from mother into crone, or from maiden into mother, or even revert back and bring in some maiden energy. Yeah, and just supporting each other through these life stages, especially as women. I really think as women, but I think men need support too. Like, I think that's why there's so much culturally about like the male midlife crisis, is I think that we just don't talk enough about how transitioning through these life stages is normal. Like, we should normalize it. We should talk about it. We should support each other through it. And I think that it's almost like a shame that we kind of make fun of the midlife crisis. You know what I mean? And I think it says a lot about like our fears of like aging, and just, you know, we're all going to go through these life stages, hopefully. And I think that we should just have a lot more respect and support for the other stages that we're not currently in, including as we get older, like understanding that the younger ones matter too. And just because we didn't have support during the younger transitions doesn't mean other people shouldn't. And that when people are ahead of us, maybe we should be more open and respectful about learning from their wisdom about those life stages and not make fun of it. So that's my little Gabby PSA about having empathy and compassion and truly learning from each other multi-generationally, which I think we know, especially for those of us in Americans, we sometimes lose sight of, is this multi-generational view of life, and really learning from the wisdom of those who've gone before, and also the new wisdom of those coming up behind us. We shouldn't disrespect any of those perspectives. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not rambling too much, but yeah, that's my message from Hecate this morning. I felt very prompted to share it. So love you guys. I'm going to add this to my Hecate playlist. And if you want to learn more about Hecate herself, go ahead and go through the playlist, because there's some good content in there. And let me know if you want me to make a full video. Okay, bye.